You'll notice the change here is only the word on the line. The only thing that is really changing is the line that I'm physically moving to in my configuration. This time, it's going to be line auxiliary 0. One thing about Cisco numbering is that it always begins with a 0. They do not start with 1. So this is going to be the first and only auxiliary port, and the same with the console. In this case, I have changed to aux0, executed the word login to indicate that the login should be checked using the password that follows. In this case, I've used Cisco aux as the password. I did a Control-Z to get back to the root, and I have now set the auxiliary password. The final access point that we have to configure is the Telnet password. Now, one major difference with the Telnet password is that I cannot use Telnet until I set one. Whereas with console, you noticed that when I was showing the boot process, I got right into the console and didn't do any checking whatsoever. So by default, console and auxiliary do not prompt for login unless the password is set. In contrast, the Telnet protocol is not even turned on until you set a password. So you must set a password for Telnet to allow someone to connect across the network. You also have to have an IP address, which we haven't gotten to yet. One thing you should specifically note about Telnet is the line. Line is VTY. That's my virtual terminal, and it's the same as Telnet. They are interchangeable terms. By default, most versions of iOS, that's almost 90%, will use 5 separate Telnet session ports. They're numbered 0 through 4. And that means we have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, giving us a grand total of 5. Now, some of the enterprise versions of iOS can actually have up to 198 separate Telnet sessions. Still to this day, I've never figured out why you'd need to have a 198 Telnet sessions at the same time, but they do have it. But in this case, we're only dealing with 5 of them. What I'm doing in this particular command is that I am setting the same password for all 5 session ports. So for line VTY 0 through 4, let me turn on login checking using the password of Telnet. That's effectively what I've told the router. I can go back to the root with Control-Z, and I've now enabled the Telnet ports as well as the Telnet password. Now there's one little trick that you might try here if you're the primary network administrator. You may want to never be locked out of your router if you've got a lot of other administrators that do get in with Telnet. Well, the trick is that you can actually set different passwords on every terminal line. So I could have typed line VTY0, set the password of Telnet, then executed line VTY1 and set a different password for line 1. Then I just give the appropriate line password to whoever needs it. This allows me to have a password that can be protected and that I can use as a backdoor. So if you want to, you can set different passwords on different lines.